Morning. Welcome back to this week's Coffee and Gold Dust. I hope you all had a wonderful weekend and that just enjoying the good weather that we have around here. And if you're watching from another nation as well, I hope that all is well with you. I basically just want to announce again that if you can't watch me live, there's many that have requested for it to be sent out on Messenger. I do that. But there's also a YouTube channel now that I have called, it's Bonnie DeCold Coffee and Gold Dust. And so you can always catch any back issues there and view them in a time frame that works for you, because I know everybody's not available for the live. Well, we started a little bit of a series last week, which was on defining the seasons of your life. And as I said last week, I believe the Lord had me have a look at this just to try to bring some understanding and make some sense out of the ups and the downs and the things we go through in life, and how with God there is always a redemptive purpose in everything that we're in or we go through. He doesn't cause us times of suffering. He doesn't cause us times of sickness. There's an enemy that comes to kill, steal, rob, and destroy. But what he does is he makes good. He brings richness out of all things. And so last week I talked about summer and I talked about fall and how summer was a time where we could become very distracted, and in how fall could be a time of stripping as the leaves fall off the trees, and I went into a lot more detail. But I want to go into winter today, and then we're going to look at spring. And like I said last week, the seasons in our lives may not come in order of the natural seasons, but we're using the seasons of our life symbolically to help define where we are, so we can cooperate as a believer what the Lord is doing in our lives. So the winters, if you're listening from another nation and your winter is not like this, I'm going by our winters here. Winters have a blanket of cold that may cover our lives. And when we went back, if you listened last week about the tree, and when the man sent his 4 sons out to view the tree in different seasons, how they saw a different picture. Well, the tree in winter, the son that went in winter to view this pear tree, came back with a report that the tree was ugly, that the tree was barren. And that's how sometimes the winter seasons of our lives kind of feel. In winters, our winters may look like loss. They're darker than what our normal life might be because of the circumstances of life or even sickness. We've all had winter seasons. My winter season for me in the last few years was obviously COVID. It was a time where my very life was threatened. I was on life support. My family were told I wasn't going to make it. And for me and for them, it was a very dark season. It was a 6-month recovery. All kinds of things happened. I didn't understand it. Didn't feel the presence of God in that season as strongly as I normally do. Everything in my life seemed out of control, and it was like I was just fighting to stay alive at that point. And in the 6-month recovery, it also felt very dark. And sometimes in our winter seasons and when things are really bad, we don't know what God may be doing. We don't know what may be forged within us in the winters of our season. And even when we go through things and we cannot feel the presence of the Lord, there's a purpose in that, because we are people that like to feel and to know and to understand what's happening. And in the winter, sometimes we don't understand. We just see the cold. We just see the ugliness of the tree. We just see the circumstances of what is happening in our lives. And when we don't feel the presence of God in our winter season, and we might have mild winter seasons, we have to make a choice to stand on truth, to stand on that He is there, that He is moving, and that He is an ever-present help in time of trouble. We have to realize that our God is with us, whether we feel Him or not, whether we see Him or not, where we see Him moving or not, where we don't understand why we're going through what we're going through. We have to make a choice and stand in faith during those times. Or the winters, the harshness of a really hard winter can destroy us, because it is a time where the enemy comes in like a flood. I've said before, my winter of COVID felt very demonic in some ways. My brain got hit. I saw all kinds of illusions. I just went down, 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 and it took me a while to get back up. So our winters may look different from year to year. Sometimes we sail through, and then we know the winter, so then we know that there's grace to go through whatever we may be. But then there's these other times where we feel alone and abandoned and not able to feel that God is there, but He is there. I believe God's purpose in that is that He allows us to feel the full force of what we're going through in order to strengthen us. You just have to stand on truth. You just have to stand on faith. Your roots in Him have to go very, very deep. And I feel that's what happened to me in COVID. We all know that hindsight is 20/20. And so now that I'm beyond that COVID, winter of COVID, and feel like I'm in a spring, and we'll talk about that shortly. It feels like looking back, I don't understand why I had to go through what I did. I really don't understand why my family had to go through what I did. Then I came out of it and got hit with such condemnation about the whole thing. But I am noticing the fruit of that winter in my life now. I don't know how God does all that. I don't know how He does the straightening and the strengthening in us. He promised us that we will go from faith to faith, strength to strength, and glory to glory. I feel like my relationship with Him has been renewed and in a deeper way. And now in my spring, I see what the winter has forged within me. Even Jesus, it said that he learned obedience through the things that He suffered. He learned. And I don't know what it is about man or mankind, but we learn sometimes through the things that we suffer, through the things that we go through. And so basically what I want to say is, with God on our side, with us in relationship with the Most High God, no suffering is on to nothing. It brings something beautiful. It says, we read in Ecclesiastes over the last couple of weeks, that he makes all things beautiful in his time. I want to just shift in the few minutes I have to look at spring. Well, we know what spring's like around here. Spring is new beginnings, new opportunities, fresh hope, anticipation and excitement is in the air. I feel that every spring, that anticipation's in the air. Our spirits are quickened in spring and awakened, refreshed and invigorated. Our soul, in our soul, there's a degree of resurrection life where restoration can begin, but the dead things in life come off, they're pruned off, and it's an intense time to have a fresh outlook, especially if you've gone through a hard winter that forged something in us, that brought us back to our roots, and that we did it by faith. So you may not know what's coming in spring when spring first starts, but there is an anticipation of it. And every season with God is a good season. For me, it brought me back to my first love with him. It's a time to take risk. It's a time to plant seeds. I know after I came through my winter period, I had the Holy Spirit instruct me to get into the book of Psalms. And when I got into the book of Psalms, it was like, at first, there's a lot of trauma on you when you have a near-death experience. But the book of Psalms spoke about who my God is. And I needed to reprogram my mind and to actually see who he was and fall in love with him again after the trauma, after the enemy told me that he had abandoned me, after all of these things. And so as I did that, coming out of my winter, my spring has been a place to go back to the first love. The word begins to come alive with new promise and confidence. And sometimes in spring, we still see some winds. We still see some rain and shadows of winter. They pop up their head from time to time. But we just have to take a risk and step out into the new. And we need to squelch the desire in spring for immediate gratification and to have the greater picture in mind and the greater reward. As a farmer plants in springtime, he has to have patience for that seed or crop to come forth. He has to water it and wait for it, to keep looking and expecting for it to come in faith believing. And then as he waits, the little shoots pop up from the ground, and he begins to see what he sowed, the beginning stages of it coming forth. So it's a time of renewal and a time of spiritual growth. The wilderness of winter starts to show signs of a fertile garden. And it's just that time where fresh hope is planted within us again. And so I just want to reiterate in closing that no matter what season that you may be in, God is with you, whether you know it or not, whether you feel it or not. You just have to believe it and stand on faith. The other thing I want to reiterate is what feels like a stripping or a dormancy in those harder seasons like fall or winter. God is at work preparing you for the next season, for the next part of your life that he has for you. He's preparing you to be able to stand in the midst of adversity. He's putting into you a boldness and a fight to stay in truth. He's putting into you, just as he looks upon the next, of the next. See, God's a big God that lives outside of time. And as he lives outside of time, he knows what's ahead. He knows what is coming. And he always has a good plan for our lives that maybe we haven't been ready for so far. And so even though transition and change from one season to another can be difficult, know that God has a plan, and it's a good plan. Like Jeremiah 23 says, I have a plan to prosper you, not to harm you. A plan for a future and a hope. So just cooperate with the season that you're in. Allow the depths of it to do a thorough work in you. And I promise you, you will come out of your season and into the next with a greater capacity to minister, to love. Your especially the hard seasons and the dark seasons, you will come out with a greater capacity to stand in faith. And that faith will be used for God's purposes in your life. I feel like I have all kinds of opportunities opening up for me, doors opening up for me. Been to the nations, hope to go back to the nations in the new year. Speaking opportunities that I've had and different things like that. And so right now feels like spring. But I know the ups and downs of life. And as we go through them, we just need to surrender and to trust and let the Lord do what he needs to do. Because there's things that need to fall off. There's things we need to be stripped of. And there's a forging as we go back and look at the root system, which is him and his word, his power and his strength. Well, God bless you. We will see you tomorrow for more coffee and gold dust.